Okay, so this is a tag from the Great Andres, the Great Service Fragrances. Excuse the bloody noise. Of course there's a tractor when I'm out for a nice walk. And basically it's a tag all about teachers' fragrances. How would we sent our teachers from our favourite subjects, which I thought was kind of a clever idea and an interesting one. Okay, so first up is German, and that's because in honour of Andres, who is from a German-speaking country. My German teacher at school was, let's just say all of the teachers in my era at secondary school were all on the verge of a breakdown, so she was quite mental. But yeah, Germany always makes me think of leather. So sort of in honour of you, Andres, who I'd much prefer to be my German teacher, I've gone for Miller Harris Leather Rouge, which is an absolutely beautiful fragrance. I'm not a big leather fan, and leather is quite prominent, but it's so balanced with a touch of rose and raspberry running through it. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Now, like I've said before, I've not tried Tuscan leather from Tom Ford, but I don't imagine it to be quite like this. This is kind of a delicate, sophisticated leather with them sweeter notes running through it. Just a gorgeous one. So yes, for German, we've gone for Miller Harris Leather Rouge. Probably all my subjects are quite predictable. So next up on the list is English literature. Now, at secondary school, this is what made me, I suppose, academic, because I absolutely loved it. More into being a literary critic, if you get what I mean. Not a critic in that sense, but literature, what got me interested was, like, it's not just the stories, it's the stories in the stories, the author, what they were trying to say, why they were saying it, all that sort of jazz. Absolutely loved literature. So yeah, at secondary school I was lucky enough to get an A-level teacher to teach us for GCSE, so it pushed us to the next level. Loved it, and obviously it was a big part of my favourite lectures at uni were the ones based around literature. But anyway, what fragrance? Well, I've gone for Noir de Noir. Had to really go for a rose fragrance, didn't I? Because would a rose by any other name still be a rose? Well, so yeah, it's got that rose in it. It's kind of, and obviously my interest in literature was the more gothic literature, Middle Ages literature that came out of there. So I had that dark twist. Obviously Mary Shelley's Frankenstein kind of got into at university, and that is quite just a brilliant book. So many layers to it, and that, like there is with Noir de Noir, it's a nice rose scent but with dark layers, interesting layers. Just an all-round fantastic fragrance. So for English literature, Noir de Noir. Next up, probably won't surprise you to kind of learn this, is my next favourite project was probably social gender studies, and obviously one of my biggest interests, and the fragrance I've decided to go for that is Lipstick Rose, because it's just obviously all fragrance is unisex, but this is an interesting unisex one to have such a, if you like, feminine name. Because I suppose, if I'm being generous, lipstick is probably mainly worn by women, although anyone can wear it, that's totally up to you. But this fragrance again has that kind of androgyny about it. It's not for men, it's not for women, it's easily for both. It's not even that makeup-y, I don't think, in comparison to other fragrances. It's quite a beautiful androgynous kind of fragrance, like I say. Lipstick kind of comes from the iris, and the violet and the rose all come together. And obviously there's woods, bloody golf club, there's woods, and it just all balances out perfectly, to be fair. And it kind of tells the tale of all the things surrounding about gender, that really, it isn't really a thing, it's a social construct. Obviously sex is the biological thing, which can be complicated, is the more fact-based thing, whereas gender is just what society kind of expects and labels. And this fragrance again goes down that path, doesn't it really? Lipstick Rose for everyone. Yeah, anyway, that's for gender studies, and that's Lipstick Rose by Frederic Malle. Next up we have philosophy, and kind of all the different, wasn't just straight up philosophy, it was a lot of things. Obviously my degree was very social anthropology, people based, so it's more the philosophy around that kind of particular area. But anyway, it's a much easier one for me because my only male lecturer also did the literature side of stuff, wore Chanel L'Homme, which is one that I obviously grew to love, and my association with the original formulation is with him and all them subjects that I loved so much. The fragrance itself is kind of woody, a little bit peachy, vanilla, resins. It's just a very lovely fragrance. Well, was a very lovely fragrance. The new formulation's alright, but I don't want to get onto that too much. So for that one, for philosophy, the fragrance I've chose is Chanel Allure Homme. Nice brief list. We have English language. Look at that stupid golf course. And English language, possibly one of my more favourite subjects. But the fragrance I've chose is weird, but I think actually it describes all the levels of English language for me. Now, both at school and university this was, and I did it A level. Absolutely loved this one. English language is so much more than just the language and stuff. It's all about the history and that side of it. Now, the fragrance I've gone for is Guerlain's Vetiver. And the reason I've gone for that is, you could associate it with English countryside, etc, etc. But also the greenness makes me think of Central Europe, which is a lot of where our language comes from. And it also transports me to like Scandinavia, just the forests and the open wild greenness there. Now, vetiver is quite a sophisticated sense, but that greenness just does transport you outside, and that I associate that big style with English language, because obviously one of the biggest influences as well of the Germanic languages on English is, of course, the Vikings and the Scandinavians, and a lot of Norse and Old Norse mixed in with Old English. So it all seems to go very well. And then as we move a bit more modern, where's Guerlain from? It's from France, which they were kind of nearly the last people to sort of change our culture and be a part of it. They kind of took the place of the Germans, didn't they? The Normans, the German Saxons. So that moves on to that nice and smoothly. So yeah, I think Guerlain Vetiver not only kind of typifies that English language, but it kind of mixes with a lot of the history of it. So that's Guerlain Vetiver for English. Next up, you might think it's a very strange choice for the particular subject, but I won't say my next are in no order. My other favourite subject is of course politics. Anyone who knows me probably knew that. And what I've gone for that is actually Fragrance One's Office for Men, because my observation of politics right now is just typifies it, doesn't it? It's where politics is in the kind of early 21st century. It's a fragrance that tells lies. It's a populist fragrance. It copies a lot of things and says it's much better than it is, and kind of will make you promises that we all know it'll never keep. And it is a very mass appealing, lovely fragrance. Otherwise we wouldn't wear it, would we? But it's very overpriced and it's not as good as it claims. It's much the same as all the rest, like all populists are. They just know how to speak the speak. And I think Office for Men certainly does speak the speak. But it's an amalgamation, a mixture of clones of things from the past, good or bad, over popular things. So that quite deep one for politics. Office for Men from Fragrance. Next up is sociology, social anthropology, social construct, whatever, you know, it came in lots of different forms throughout my education. And what I've picked for that is Dorophilia from Miguel Matos. And the reason I picked Dorophilia is because this is, obviously the word means a kind of fetish about animal fur. And ultimately that's what society is based on, isn't it? We are animals, and basically everything we do is based around the flesh, whether it's sex or it's eating or it's gratification or whatever. It's all kind of based around us as our more baser instincts of being animals. It's just to survive, isn't it, and have as much pleasure as possible. And that's what animals do, and that's what humans do pretty much. And I love it's also such a beautiful fragrance. There are the kind of darker things hidden behind it, which of course all society has, but it is quite comforting and cozy and beautiful, and there's too many notes to list, but it does give you that kind of snuggly feeling of snuggling into sort of fur and things like that. And we all seek comfort, don't we, as human beings? And again, society is based a lot around that. And then the animal kingdom, the same as us, has that kind of social construct of alphas, whether it be alpha males, females, doesn't matter, but we all sort of strive to be leaders or to be led, and somebody always comes out on top. And yeah, I think Dorophilia from Miguel Matos pretty much sums up that kind of sociology. And last but not least, kind of mixes in with all the others, you're probably expecting it as well. It's called RE at school, theology at university. Basically it's the study of what motivates humanity, isn't it, really? Whether you believe in a god or not, but it's linked to philosophy. Really it is philosophy, but it's where do we come from, what's our purpose, how do we keep preserving the human race, etc, etc. The whole kind of spirituality, you know, just being at one, for me, with nature and what we basically have and what we can see, and people's faiths. The ironic thing about religion, spirituality, theology, philosophy is whatever you believe, we all believe in something. Even if it's you believe we just exist because we do, it's still a belief. And it's used by mankind, or men generally in history, to segregate us. All these books and texts that are written by human hands and interpreted by humans all seem to be to kind of... Anyway, I've got drifted off. I respect all faiths, all religions, no matter how ludicrous some seem or how other people judge these religions. All religions are basically around peace, really, aren't they, and a sense of belonging, so who can criticise it? Anyway, we've gone way off. What I've picked for this is, it's actually quite a weird one, and it's George Zaharoff's signature. And the reason I've picked that is because it has that kind of spirituality and development about it. It opens very kind of fresh with the lavender and I don't get much citrus myself, but the touch of citrus and freshness, and ultimately it kind of changes and morphs and develops down into something very resinous, a little bit dark and sort of smoky, and obviously all that takes you to kind of spiritual feeling, doesn't it? Sort of notes associated with religion and relaxing, and obviously that touch of lavender sort of relaxes and calms you. So yes, that was the last one on the list, and that was George Zaharoff's signature pour on, and that goes with religious studies, RE, theology, whatever you want to call it. So what about you? What fragrances kind of would you associate with your favourite subjects and that? Okay, thanks, bye.